I like Dolly because I think Dolly's she's a warm, wonderful. Well, I like the theater. I like show business. I only wish that the younger people today that do come into the theater would like it as well, more than just for the money and the glamour and the excitement of it, and realize that the theater, as every other business, also calls for discipline.
Well, I think that in many cases, people's names affect them. Various studies have shown that people with very uncommon names have more trouble in school than people with common names. Now, of course, I like my name, Elsdon, as a first name, simply because of Smith. If my first name was John or William, it would be no identification whatever. But with the name Smith or Jones or Johnson, you need an uncommon name.
I guess one of the things that our parents do for us that affects us most throughout our lives then has to be naming us. What kind of rules do you think parents should follow when they're naming their children?
Well, they should follow they should not take names that are too common or too uncommon. They should have a name that fits well with the surname. Particularly, it should fit well with the nationality of the person. If your surname is McGilligan, don't take Isaac as a first name.
and this is from the White House. President Nixon, who had, I said to him that even like with our show Dolly and everything, or anything I've done, the only thing is I got this plaque, this big one from President Nixon, but the only thing is I said, I'm 52 years old. I was appointed as a full ambassador of love. This is from President Nixon, Richard Nixon, President of the United States of America, to Pearl Valley, California. They have appointed me ambassador of love. I don't have my glasses on.
To the entire world.
To the entire world, authorized me all the duties, and as such should be.
Right.
And I said the only thing wrong with it is it's beautiful, and the only thing wrong with it is that God appointed me ambassador of love 52 years ago, and he's just about an inch behind him.
Right. What is the future of Pearl Bailey? Retirement, a book, or more musicals?
I think I would call it semi-retirement from the theater. Well, you know, Madam Ambassador can't be running around carrying on. But I am going to semi-retire. In fact, I have to slow down a bit even, with Dolly. I don't know how David's going to take it, but we've been almost 3 years. And in fact, I got the first script of Dolly in Houston, Texas.
Are there any particular factors that you could pinpoint which would maybe be the reasons for the condition as we see it today?
Yes, I think that they are twofold. Number one, the continuing building of the projects, which were, many of them started some 18 to 20 months ago, the finishing up of those projects, plus the fact that the overall economy is in a decline with the General Dynamics laying off and a few other plants along that line, which is adversely affect the influx of new residents into Tarrant County.
How has the tight money situation affected the buildings for the future, say the immediate future, in the next 18 months or so?
The conventional projects, which have been built so freely in the past, I would say from my own personal knowledge that probably 80% of those projects will no longer be built. A few of them that were already set up, and a few of the large builders are, but that the overall projects are certainly will be built less.
I would say that's a continuing effort. I wouldn't want to say, I think we have focused on the problems that relate. I would say there are still what I term pockets of prejudice rather than it being as widespread. And I think I think industry is making tremendous strides with very effective recruiting programs.
You can't expect to end discrimination, can you, by laws or regulations?
No, laws and regulations, as I've used the word, can focus and encourage people, but no, you can't legislate, I guess you'd say, morality.
Then how will we finally, if we ever do, end discrimination in employment?
I think through responsible citizens. I think industry becoming aware of the needs of large numbers of people. There are many encouraging things happening in the field. I think more encouraging than discouraging. So I don't think you can work on a timetable. I think it's got to be part of a way of life.
I'm not here this afternoon as a rebel. I don't feel the least bit rebellious. I'm frightened. And I'm so frightened that I don't even know what to say. And I'm not usually at a loss for words. It's extremely easy at a time like this to make a lot of words, to pick on people that none of us likes too much. to find fault with other people who made decisions in fear and for who knows what other reasons. But those words are apt to be frivolous. The words that we speak have consequences. And I wanted to say some words that would have the right kind of consequences, but I don't even know what kinds of consequences I want. There's one thing I do know, and you all know it too, that we are a deeply divided society. We have lost the ability to talk to one another across some very important gulfs of the years and I know not what else. But we are a polarized society. And it's not going to do any good for us to talk to one another this afternoon. There's another very large group of people that we must be concerned to reach, to speak to. We've got to speak to what's come to be called the silent majority. And I don't know how we do that. The silent majority is made up of people like we are, subject to the same fears that we have known. Maybe they fear different things, but we're all afraid. We have lost the ability to communicate with one another by words and by touch. And when men lose this ability, they begin to kill one another.
I think the surveys and the advertisement which we see in the paper certainly are indicative that we're in a soft market. And a soft market means that we temporarily have possibly overbuilt the area and that some of the projects are having problems and are offering some things which we don't particularly like.
They are becoming increasingly aware of it. As you know, in Philadelphia, an effort has been made, what is known as the Philadelphia Plan, to get labor unions to agree on a certain percentage that would be included on their rolls that would be eligible for employment.
Is there any hope for the critical unemployment problem we're facing today?
There's really not. I mean, the problem, there's not an unemployment problem right now. I mean, what is in Dallas, the percentage would be what, 2%?
I believe it.
And the same thing would be true in the Houston area, in Atlanta.
He fundamentally was a football player. His track was more or less incidental so far as Bob's interest was concerned. We recruited him as a football player. We found out his speed in running wind sprints. But I used Bob as a running back, and we threw the ball some, and I used him as a wide flanker. But fundamentally, our team was a running team, and Bob loved contact, and we got good results out of it, both as a runner and as a passer.
There had been
receiver.
Perennially the problem of the track athlete making a success in the pros. Did you ever have any hesitation about him?
None at all. I knew he was a good pass receiver. I knew he had the courage he was a good open field runner, and he had the desire that was necessary to play football, and it never was any question in my mind. I knew that the folks would come around to my way of thinking when the boy got a chance to perform. No, I wasn't surprised at all.
Well, I say that the increase in dues is vitally necessary for this organization to grow. If we're going to build a true professional organization for teachers, we've got to have the money to provide a professional staff which can provide the services that teachers are demanding in the next decade. Dallas is actually playing a game of catch-up, and in order to have the staff to get these services, we've got to have the money.
Most of the people that objected to the increase to 21 said that they didn't feel they were going to get enough services. Why do you feel this is so?
Well, I sensed this, that they were afraid that they would just be paying the money and wouldn't get these services, but I know that they can get the services if they will just provide the funds to this organization.
What would the money be used for this increase if it was increased to $21?
Well, with the increase, of course, additional personnel, such as an associate director, to do a lot of research, which is vitally necessary to an organization like this, to provide field assistance for assistants to go out into the schools to work on teacher grievances, to work on teacher problems. We just need an organization that will get out in the field and reach the teacher, and this hasn't been done in the past.
Coach Engel, the probability that Penn State and Texas might have met for the national title last year appeared possible there for a short time, but circumstances prevented it. There was much discussion about a college playoff. We've heard many people's opinions of an NCAA college football playoff. Would you favor that?
I really would, Verne. I think it would be a very easy way to do it, too. I think you could find out pretty well if you took the top teams in the 6 top conferences, the winner of each conference, and then 2 teams at large, independent teams. You'd really only have to play 3 times. And I think you could come up with a real champion, although the polls are good if you want to abide by the polls. And by the way, Texas won all the polls, so actually I think that was a little bit exaggerated, what was happening.
But you had to think possibly with your strong ties with Penn State that Coach Paterno and his flouting of the Penn State team was justified, don't you?
Yes, actually they had a great football team, and Joe has been doing a great job. He was my quarterback back at Brown, you know, and he came along down to Penn State as a freshman or as senior in college, and stayed with us, and he was really ready, and he's going to be one of the real great coaches of this era, and he's doing a real fine job. And had they played Texas, it depended on the day who might win the football game.